Welcome back to Story Hustler. I'm
And
Dylan.
I'm Mike.
We have a very special guest. We have one of the jurors who served in the trial of Torrance and LaDell Bistline, aka the Trial of the Samuelites. Pam, thank you so much for being with us. Obviously, we want to get your insights into what it was like being a juror, but we kind of talked before this, and you mentioned that you had no idea anything about the FLDS or this community in general. Going into it, not knowing kind of what was your first impressions with the opening statements the first day?
Well, when we got picked, I was surprised that went right into opening statements. I thought, kind of had been a long day, and I thought we would start maybe next week or they would schedule it. But we went right into the jury room, and they started with opening statements, and we were all stunned. I honestly, um, I tried not to cry. I was like, I can't believe this is what this trial is about. And I I remember just staring at the prosecutor and thinking, don't cry, don't cry. I can't believe, I mean, it was about a 45-minute opening statement. And my heart was pounding. We were all, I think, just in shock. And and then the defense came up and they did their opening statement, and it was just kind of the opposite. So I thought, well, okay, there's two sides, obviously, to every story. I hadn't heard anything about the trial, anything about the accused or any of the FLDS. And, the only thing I had ever really heard about was the Warren Jeffs,
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
situation. And I remember seeing Mike up standing on the corner in Colorado City, doing his reporting back in the day. And I was actually surprised I hadn't heard anything on the news. I watch the news and I watch a lot of shows and different reports, and
Yeah.
And
it
this
was all brand new to me. Yeah.
and this is, and our audience is pretty well familiar with it because we've been talking about Sam and his group for 2+ years. But so you went into this really with no knowledge other than the sort of you're a longtime resident here in Arizona.
Yes.
So
Yes. I'm here,
you
yeah,
were
over
aware of
35 years.
Warren and Colorado City and that stuff, but this
Yeah.
sort of came out of the blue, I
It
take it.
came out of the blue, which is surprising because I never heard, and I still really haven't heard anything besides what you guys are reporting on.
Well,
Yeah.
that's interesting because they brought you guys in from most of the jurors from northern Arizona because they were thought there was going to be too much publicity, and the reality was there hasn't been
Nobody knows.
really any publicity about this case.
Yeah.
Right, right. Exactly.
Well, kind of in the prereq questions when they were narrowing down the jurors, they obviously talked about religion and if you'd have like an issue with like going like talking about someone's religion and being able to like separate your bias from that. Did that give you any inclination or like what was your thoughts when they were asking those kinds of questions?
Well, I knew that it was um they sent out a questionnaire
Hmm.
ahead of time to everybody. I think it was like 300 people that filled it out. And they said a little bit about that it was FLDS, and they kind of, that it had to do with children, and it was FLDS, and that's really all we knew. So I assumed it was about that religion.
Yeah.
What so you go into this, and it really is a sort of polygamy, child abuse, trafficking 101 class for everybody. We've heard the story, and it was shocking to us. That opening statement, you're right, so powerful. What are the things that moved you guys? I mean, at the end of the day, this jury hears 3 weeks of testimony about these guys, and we want to hear what your opinion of these men. But it didn't take you guys long to make the decision. What did you, what did the case show to you? What did what did it end up, the impact on you?
Well, we had notebooks and we took notes. We all had, I mean, we had a inch thick notebook, And we all had notes on every, I mean, there was 50 witnesses, and we we listened intently and we took a lot of notes. And when we went in to deliberate, we had been there for almost a month.
Right.
And the defense didn't have a defense, and the things that came out during the trial uh, were polar opposite of what the defense said that they were going to prove.
Mhm.
They didn't prove it, any of it. So, I had heard, that there was, well, it only took 45 minutes and we had been there for almost a month.
Right.
So we did go through each count, and it was just, the evidence was overwhelming. I wondered who was counseling these two on going for a trial, because Sam Bateman, um, you know, the only thing I can say about him is that he pled guilty. At
Mhm.
least he pled guilty. He knew, and I don't know what was going on in Torrance and LaDell's mind, that they thought for a second um, that they could be found not guilty. I don't know who was counseling them, or did they not know the mountain of evidence against them? It was arrogant to me. And to put those women and those young girls through that, it was heartbreaking that they made them do that. I really had a hard time with that, because I thought, after all of this, it didn't take long at all. The counts actually weren't, what they were charged with was, to me, minor compared to what I thought they should have been charged with. I was shocked at kind of what the charges were, but I didn't understand state versus federal and all of that. Um, I just it was it didn't take as long at all. It actually didn't take us as long as it took us, because we went through every count, and it was just, there was no discussion. And thank God, because I can't imagine going through a trial where, after all that time and all that emotion, that you're in a jury room and you're deadlocked or something, and you're trying to work through all that evidence. Because I felt really, we all did, we felt really good with our decision. There wasn't a question, and that's really what you want. You don't want to go home and think, oh, is there a chance, or did we make a mistake? None of that. It was overwhelming.
Definitely. We've also talked to a woman who's related to the brothers, and she brought up that point as well. It's like, why did they decide to go to trial? Like you said, Sam, pled guilty. And while pleading guilty, we went to that, and he took down every adult that was involved and
In
took
his
them.
plea deal, he
Yeah, he was
spelled it
like,
out.
this is what happened. They were there. They witnessed this. They, participated in half these activities, and they still had the audacity, is really the only word I have, to do that
What
and
were
to
they
put
trying
those
to
girls
prove?
through
Yeah,
that.
what were they
Yeah.
Yeah,
trying to
they
prove?
can't believe, I can't believe that they would think that, I don't know. I mean, the money that
Mhm.
it cost the state, they had to pay for this, and the time, and those women and children had to look at their father, their brother, their caretaker, someone they loved. You could tell they're not used to being in front of people, and they're in this courtroom, and they have to talk about these traumatic, embarrassing experiences, and look, them in the eye. I just thought, how can you, after all this, how can you do that
What'd you think
to
of
those
those
kids?
young women? We've talked about these young women, and some of them as young, early teens now, when they were, victims at 9. What was your impression of those young women?
Oh, it was just, I felt my heart broke for them. And some of them were so young, and the prosecutor, you know, they would put, they had, there's a 13-year-old on the stand, and then they would put up her picture because this happened when she was 9,
Hmm.
and that got to me. I mean, I looked over and it was just trying to keep your composure, and they were all so well spoken and so, you know, as confident as you could be in that situation. And I looked at LaDell and Torrance. I I thought, I don't even know, how do you look? I mean, it was his daughter. His daughters are up there. I just don't know. I mean, it was beyond me. I thought, wow, I've never seen anything like that. And they thought had a chance. They
Yeah.
thought they had a chance.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling, but you kind of hinted, what were your feelings towards the men specifically? Obviously, you have to, innocent until proven guilty. Even with this mounting evidence, you kind of have to keep in check how you might really feel about them. But how did you feel about them before, during, and after the trial?
Well, when we walked in, the first day,
Mhm.
um, uh, Liddell was just kind of smiling and looking at us, and I thought, okay, he's just, of course he's trying to, make some connection or something. Um, and as the trial went on, and I mean, there was video evidence, there was their handwriting, journals, audio. I just kept looking at him like, you've got to be kidding me. How can you think? I mean, they had to know that they had all this evidence, and it just got more and more difficult to be in that room with them. And I just tried to keep a straight face because I'm expressive with and I thought I was just beyond words. We would go home or to our hotel. I would go out of there and just cry.
Mm.
I just felt like I needed to run out of there every day. It was 8 hours
Mhm.
every day of that. And it takes a toll, which you don't really think about that with the jury, but you live that and you can't talk to anybody about it. So
Right.
you just internalize that
Mhm.
Did
and you
you
go back
did
in the
you feel
next day.
differently? Did you feel differently about the men? I mean, did Liddell strike you one way and Torrance another?
Um, at first I thought that Torrance was maybe kind of just pulled in, you
Mhm.
know, the little brother, or I don't know, just I kind of felt that way at first. Um, and the defense, when they did their opening statements, you know, sh they said, oh, he's a 34-year-old virgin and he's waiting for his wife and all that. And I thought, well, okay, we'll see. But, you know, that was shocking to me because it's like, it was just a lie. And Liddell he looked at me a lot, and I just looked back, and he would look down. I thought, I'm not breaking my stare. Um, and I know, some of the witnesses, I just wouldn't, they would come in and his daughters would come in. I just would look at him to see, how do you're looking at, this is your daughter, and it just got more sickening. It just got more sickening. And I thought, I was waiting for them to have some sort of a defense,
Yeah, we
which
were
I
too.
didn't, I thought, well, I don't know what it could be, and there was none.
Yeah. Something,
There was
find
none.
something. That's
Right.
what we thought they would do, just to not have any defense and then kind of think. I mean, we talked to Liddell's attorney after the case, and he's like, well, our client exercised his right to go to trial, and that's his prerogative. And
It
he
was
goes,
clearly their decision.
yeah,
These
but
guys
then he
made that
said,
decision.
I wish the jury had taken more time to deliberate. It's like, well, you didn't really give them anything to work with. So I don't know how much more time that they could take when you're just going to say, well, we have nothing.
Right. And
So best of luck.
we've commented on how quickly you were, and I want to, it's
Yeah,
in no way a criticism.
No.
no,
We
no,
sat
no.
there
And
every bit
actually,
of we
that's
sat
what I
there every
was
bit of
talking
that.
about. He kind of made it sound like we didn't look at the evidence.
Yeah.
No.
And we did. And
Yeah.
we went through, in fact, when we sat down, one of the jurors said, okay, I've been in, trials before, and emotion, what you think will happen doesn't always happen, like how you think it should go, because you have to follow the law.
Yeah.
So we did, was this count and was this proven? And there was way more proven, it was just, there was a lot proven,
Yeah.
that had to do with like destroying evidence. I mean, that was a no-brainer.
Right.
Yeah.
It was, you
Yeah.
had him on tape.
And it's I think the way this is I've covered lots of trials, and the evidence was so utterly overwhelming and so massive and like an avalanche against these guys. And at the end of the day, when they're given an opportunity to do anything, they say, "We rest. We have nothing." And they've taken the government and the girls and everybody else in the jury for the. And I wonder what the point, religious point, moral point that these men
The
feel
righteousness.
feel like they made from that. I'd love to ask Torrance and LaDell, but let me ask you now. You're trying two guys for their being accomplices in this cult that was really Sam Bateman's. Sam Bateman is not on trial. He's not even in the room with you guys, but his fingerprints are on everything.
Mhm.
How did that work for you guys?
Well, we didn't know, I didn't know, say, I never heard his name. I didn't know anything about him. And he did, like you said, he kept coming up in the trial. And then we did get to, we figured out kind of what was happening with him. Didn't know he was in prison, didn't know if he was waiting to have his trial. And then it did come out at some point that he had pled guilty. Um, you know, and it was interesting. I'll tell you what, the rock stars I thought were his wife
Mhm.
that went up there, and she was like, mm-mm. As soon as he wanted to marry their daughter and have children with their daughter, she was like, nope. And I thought, okay, this woman, she got the restraining order, she divorced him. That was the end of it for her. And I just wanted to clap. I thought, okay. And also Liddell's mother-in-law,
Yeah.
um, she was like, nope, and I thought, so the F, and I didn't know anything about LDS or LDS or FLDS. We got schooled on all of that. And
Mhm.
I thought, okay, they don't agree with what they're doing.
Yeah.
They don't agree with what he was doing. And I just, the videotapes, and Christine, and they did a remarkable job. I thought, boy, I can't imagine what they went through trying to
Right.
get that evidence, but thank God they did, because it made our job so easy. And I mean, we'd listen to something and I'd look over like, what are you thinking? What are you
Mhm.
guys thinking? Like, did you not know they had this videotape or this recording or your journals?
Right.
Yeah.
I,
What was the impression you got of law enforcement's reaction? Did it come off to you like they were being proactive and they got this guy as soon as they could? Like what kind of how did that impact you?
well, that was frustrating
Mhm.
for us, because it seemed like it wasn't like nobody really did anything, and it was like a couple of years, and I'm thinking of all the things that happened to these girls in those 2 years. We saw the pictures of when Sam and all of his wives, and he took everybody to Phoenix, and you had the picture, and where you guys were sounding the alarm, and it was, I get they have to have evidence, but it just, CPS had been there, I
His
mean,
wife divorced him for wanting to marry their
yeah,
daughter. I felt like
I
that's
thought,
wonderful.
how could this have gone on so long? That was frustrating. That shouldn't have happened. I don't understand because it's not all over the news. It's still not on the news. You
Mhm.
know, even after the trial, I was looking for something, and I think there was one little blurb somewhere on some news channel, but it's horrifying. And when you're sitting there with all those women and those children, and you know that this has been going on for so long, that was frustrating.
Right. And you've got, we learned, I mean, we learned some details in the trial that really were upsetting. As I look back and think of the months that went on since we found out. And basically, this guy sounds like he was raping two or three women and girls every day. And when he had his harem assembled in the blue greenhouse,
Mhm.
basically, this is just a place where he just went and sexually abused these women
Yeah, and then
sort of
paraded them
24/7 and paraded them
in
around
the
town.
day with them on backs of trailers and like child
Yeah,
endangerment right there that they
yeah,
just
we
didn't
just
do anything with and didn't
Right.
look into. Yeah, we found it pretty
very,
frustrating for law enforcement too. But I did want to ask you, you brought up Sam's wife, and she's still an FLDS
it's, if,
member.
if,
She still follows Warren. You know a little bit about the Warren case and how he's in prison, for raping the two young girls. When some of the women took the stand, they were like, well, Warren's in prison for being a good person. How did that strike you? That was very interesting to us, and I want to know how that kind of came across to you.
Well, and I thought back when Warren was put into prison, that was the end of it, you
Mhm.
know, and it was interesting because the videos, every, video that we saw, his picture's up on the wall. And they did. They said they were in denial. They've been brainwashed, in my opinion. They've been brainwashed, and they think he has done nothing wrong, and he was, prosecuted unjustly and unjustly. And his picture was on every wall, and they still, when they were questioned, they said, yeah, he's the prophet, he's the prophet.
right.
And I thought, I mean, there's still he's putting those mandates down, no marriage, no babies, no sex,
Mhm.
and it's probably still going on, that's the mandate, until you get someone like Sam to come along and break the code, and now he's the prophet.
Yeah, and I think that in many ways you point out something that I think is important in the story. Nothing really happens in a vacuum, and I think it was the pressure that Warren insinuated on everyone during the last decade. No sex, no marriages, no nothing. A guy like Sam was inevitable. I'm going to go take wives. Some guy was going to break off that. Moroni did the first, and then Sam followed his footsteps. And so I think that Warren created the conditions that created this little aberration on the sort of fringes of the FLDS community. And you guys are now privy to, really a fascinating story, experts on it. You said, and I know that mentioned that this was traumatic and that the government had offered some sort of
Oh, yeah.
counseling. Did you take advantage of that? And has it been help? What was it helpful?
Well, so it was hard. We would go back to our hotel rooms, and we couldn't talk to each other.
Right.
Mhm.
We were instructed not to even talk about it to each other until we deliberated. So we just were like silent, and then we'd go and leave for the night, and we go to our hotel, and it was just in your mind. You couldn't talk, I couldn't talk to my husband, I couldn't talk to my friends. I had friends that were kind of, they knew I was on a federal trial, and I have some great friends that were reaching out to me. They actually, after the fact, were telling me they were watching your updates and stuff. So they knew kind of what I was going through. And they would just be like, "Are you okay?" And that's about all I could say was
Right.
no.
Yeah.
You don't sleep. None of us, we were having a hard time sleeping, eating. I was preoccupied. be with my family on the weekend. And I can remember sitting with my daughter at her pool, and I just went like that. And she was like, what? Like she thought I was upset about something with her or so, I don't know. I was just, and it was just in my mind. And it took, it now I can sleep and I'm not obsessed with it, like running through my mind.
Yeah.
'Cause it makes you angry, and you can't do anything with that. And it was hard because you're going a month without talking to anybody about it. So it helps for me to talk to people about it. I talk to my friends and, they're sympathetic. And, I did, they gave us a list of, for counselors, because they said it's kind of, you can have like a PTSD effect a little bit. And I thought, man, if I can't stop thinking about this, I don't know, maybe I'll reach out because they have, you know, so many counseling sessions you can do. I did make some phone calls, but left some messages and I haven't gotten a call back. But but I think I'm okay now. It just took a while. It took longer than I thought it would
Needed some
Well,
space.
to kind of
yeah.
get out of my, yeah, out of my,
It took us a while too. It took us.
yeah.
I'm glad
Yeah.
we let this. Um, how you feeling now? And what are you going to take away from this experience, you think?
I'm feeling better, and I still may reach out. Just I, it, I don't know. I just feel like I must have led a sheltered life. I just didn't. When it's right there, I mean, when you watch it on TV, it's one thing, but when you're looking these girls in the eye and you're listening to them and you're reliving, details of what happened, and it's I guess, I just wish people would feel about this how I do, or how you guys have been amazing. You're like a dog with a bone, you stayed on it and there's no one talking about it. I don't understand that. I
Yeah.
don't understand it
Yeah.
because it's still, I'm sure there's still things going on. And part of it, it was like it's such a um these girls were just, that's, they were raised in this. And one thing that really got to me, the little 9-year-old, uh um you know Sam as a punishment made her leave the bedroom with all the girls that they slept in every night with him, and he did whatever he wanted to, and she acted up, and as a punishment he made her stay outside the bedroom, and she was upset about it.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
And I don't know, I don't know. I just wish, especially with law enforcement, that they would take this. They've gotta know. They just have to take it more seriously and dig in with things like this, because you let a year go by, you know what happens in a year to these girls.
A lot.
Right. Yeah.
A
Well,
lot.
you took it seriously. It sounds
Yeah.
like it. And again, I want to make the point when we talk about how abbreviated the deliberations were. I don't know how you could have taken, you didn't need any more time. And
Mm-mm.
really, the fact that these two guys went through this entire process, ceremony, whatever, and then didn't cough up an ounce of defense,
Yeah.
it was just really amazing. And
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why I just wanted the defense, the attorney, to know that, because I know you guys, you were there and heard everything, and I just, it seemed when you interviewed him, and it just seemed a little unfair to us
yes.
after what we had been through all that time to say, oh, I wish they would. No, we did take our time, and we listened to every piece of evidence, and
Yeah.
And
Obviously, we wanted to get his opinion, but yeah, when he said that,
yeah,
I was like, that didn't really do justice for what the jury did. But
and there's just such wildly differing sort of
yes.
levels of attorney lawyering that went on in that
Yes.
courtroom. The prosecution was pretty
They were
solid.
great.
yeah,
Laura.
Defense, they had nothing to work with, but they didn't really make anything to work with either.
LaDell's attorney made some effort. Torrance was a
She
train
didn't
wreck.
even know how to say his name for the
A
entire
train wreck for
thing,
the
which,
whole.
Yeah,
yeah,
at one point, I mean, that was irritating to all of us. It's like, come on, that's your client.
yeah,
And
Say the name.
just it was like the names were wrong and the dates were wrong. And I almost wanted to object at one point. Um,
I've never
I,
seen a juror object.
I,
Would have
I
been
know,
great.
I know. Well, Torrance's attorney was examining one of the witnesses, one of the girls.
Yeah.
And she said, so when you were having sex with Sam, and I just wanted to come out of my seat. I was like, I almost yelled objection. And I looked over and the prosecutor, they objected and they said it misstates the evidence. It
yeah,
wasn't sex.
it was
Yeah.
rape.
Yeah.
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 Call it what it is.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was hard
I,
to have a straight face.
I do have one final question. Obviously, hearing like how these girls are raised in this religion and raised to think their moms and the adult women were also raised in this religion, and some of them were, charged with crimes because they were adults, or teens that then turned into adults while this was happening. Did you have any sort of sympathy, or how did you respond to them? Was it anger mixed with sympathy? Kind of I don't know, what did you feel about them?
Well, as a mom
Hmm.
and a grandma, I was just, I can't understand how you can do this. I mean, I understood that's the culture. The men rule the roost, what they say goes, and they got caught up in it. I don't know how you can do it to that degree. So I have some sympathy for the wives, that were involved in that. I don't understand it. I did I felt bad, the ones that left and came back for the girls and took them out of DCS custody, went to California. The one did some jail time, and I thought, I don't know about that because they were just doing what they were told, you
Right.
know, and they were just rescuing them from what they didn't know, they don't know. They've been in this life their whole lives, and I thought that, they had a few, I don't know how many years, the one had gotten for doing that, but I thought I don't know. It's like you've been through a lot. She was been through a lot, and
Yes.
Yeah,
No doubt about it.
definitely. It's
then to be
complicated
put in
story.
jail.
Well, we certainly appreciate you taking a little time
Yeah,
for
thank
us.
you. This
And
is
just
awesome to
Absolutely.
talk to you.
hope we can do it
Appreciate it.
again. Maybe do it again. And if we get some of the sentencings coming up, we may cross paths again.
Yeah,
So
and we're always around to
Absolutely.
talk if it helps,
yeah.
because
Yeah.
I've heard this
Thank
story
you.
my entire life. It's just a never-ending saga.
When you feel and it's going through an experience like a trial, it really is an intense thing.
Yeah.
And we all sort of we couldn't really talk, but we all knew you guys. And walking past each other in the hallway, you sort of there's a certain bond develops going through an experience like that. And we're
Yeah.
grateful for you talking to us.
Yeah. And thank you guys for what you do. I've been watching your podcasts and what, I can't say enough. I mean, I don't know who would be talking about it if it wasn't for you two. I mean, keep doing what you're doing because
I tell
God
Dylan,
bless you for that.
it really is the story of strong women, a
Yeah.
series of strong women who make the men are sort of cookie cutter. They get power, they do what they do, but the people who make change are women who stand up and do the right thing.
Yeah.
So
So thanks for watching.
Yeah,
we'll be in touch and thank you for spending some time with us, Pam.
Yeah, thank you.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank you guys.
have a great night.
Thanks, you too.
We just want to say thanks again to Pam for talking with us about the jury
The
perspective.
trial, the Bistline brothers
Yeah.
jury.
Yeah.
Fascinating stuff. We got a lot more ahead of us, and we have finally gotten hold of the old documentary, Colorado City and the Underground Railroad. It's our Emmy and Edward R. Murrow award-winning doc that premiered 20 years ago. Made
I
a
was
couple
5, so I appreciate you saying our, but really yours.
we made a couple of tweaks that you helped us with, and we've now put it up on our website,
Yeah.
Story Hustler, the YouTube channel, because it really gives you, if you want to sort of see where this story started. Sam and company did not,
Just happened.
develop in a vacuum. This is a long history, and it really started to take a dark turn when Warren took power, and this is what we're talking about in that documentary. So it premiered 20 years ago. It really talked about my work 20 years prior to that. So you're really looking at, a 40-year span of now covering this story, and it just keeps on happening.
Yeah, it's 2 parts, so check them both out. And as we've described the second part, as much as things change, they stay the same.
Right.
And that is so true in this story.
And I think it's the theme again. It's the dynamic forces, the dynamic influences always in this story. It's not the guys.
No.
They're sort of cookie cutter doing what their religion tells them to do and whatever their position of power allows them to do. The people who make change and dynamic forces for good in this story are always the women.
Yeah.
And that's true. In Sam's case, it was true back when this revolution started with people like Flora Jessup and Penny Peterson and Ruth Stubbs and the Fawns, and just a lot of really strong women. And we hope to continue to tell their story. And Sam's sentencing a couple of days next week, Monday.
So we'll keep you updated. Hopefully that doesn't get changed. It's been getting pushed back a ton. So there's some sort of hearing, and we'll let you know what happens there.
Until then,
yeah,
check out the doc on our channel. Now we've got it uploaded. So
yeah, and like and subscribe if you haven't already. But signing off, I'm Dylan.
I'm Mike.
Good night, everyone.